You're watching The Press Row. I'm Jenny here with Barry. Our last segment, let's talk about Bedlam, because we can. We've got great games this week. We know it. Baylor's in Stillwater, TCU's in Norman. But we're the media. We're not the teams. We can talk about this stuff. How big could this Bedlam game be, Barry? I mean, we've got essentially the epicenter of college football is here already this week. It has to rank as one of the biggest weeks in all of college football history in this state, wouldn't it? If we'd get undefeated Oklahoma State versus one-loss Oklahoma in Bedlam.
Oh, no doubt about it. And of course, we need Baylor to lose in Stillwater. We need the Cowboys to go ahead and take care of business, get to Bedlam 11-0, then play a 10-1 in Oklahoma, and it would, you know what? It would be a virtual national quarterfinal.
Yeah.
It's not for sure that they would get in, but it seems likely. So, I mean, think about that. A national quarterfinal between arch rivals played within our state. Now, when you talk about the biggest things in the state history, I mean, you talk about the '84 Bedlam game when they were ranked 2 and 3, depending on which poll it was. 1971, the lead up to the OU-Nebraska game of the century, consumed most everybody, but it didn't consume the orange side of the state. And
well,
this has both sides of the river.
NBA Finals, I mean, a couple years ago, to me, that got everybody in the state involved. I mean, if you were paying any attention or cared anything about the Thunder, you were interested a couple years ago when the Heat and the Thunder locked it up in the NBA Finals. But I mean, other than that, we were talking on the Press Row podcast yesterday about the fact that nowadays everything is just bigger. I mean, it's bigger because of the TV exposure, it's bigger because of the media exposure, bigger because of the social media exposure. So everything is heightened. While there may have been bigger stakes in some previous Bedlam games, there's never been as much buildup, as much hype. It's just impossible to think that anything would approach this. And Barry, to think a year ago at this point, football was just kind of meh around here. It's crazy how it's changed.
Turned out Bedlam was a great game.
Right.
We had the overtime, the big upset, it turned out into a great, spectacle. But you're right, that was a dud game. Cowboys 5-6. Sooners were 8-3, and just sort of playing out the end of a disappointing season.
Yep.
Really thinking, even if they won, they couldn't improve their bowl. Some people thought they might get to San Antonio for the Alamo Bowl, but probably headed to Orlando either way. So yeah, it was just Bedlam. And then to look at where we could be on, next week. The only thing I wish this was December. I wish they were off on Thanksgiving Saturday. Think about that. Then we could have 2 weeks.
To build up.
2 weeks of hype. But now we get 1 week of hype, the ball game, and then 1 week of debating the status of the winner and college football playoff. So we're going to be fine in the media. We're going to have something to talk about.
Well, and you know what? As I think about where we were a year ago and where we are now, I was trying to think, is it simple enough that the change has come about because of a couple quarterbacks that are now leading these teams? A year ago it was Trevor Knight. Now Baker Mayfield has taken over, and we've seen just his ability to make plays. I mean, I don't even really know any other way to describe it. His gamer abilities. And then Mason Rudolph, it was a year ago this week, they go to Baylor. The red shirt comes off. He plays his first game. They lose, but yet that offense showed signs of life that we then saw kick in even more in that Bedlam game. Obviously, aided by an injury to Samaje Perine, a bad decision by Bob Stoops, on and on and on. But still, is it simple enough to say the quarterbacks are the difference in where we were a year ago and where we are now?
No, it's not. It's deeper than that. The truth of the matter is the biggest difference, particularly against Baylor for Oklahoma, I think it's the secondary.
That's true.
Now, I mean, they just basically couldn't guard Baylor's receivers last year.
Nope.
And they could Saturday night. That's the biggest difference in the game. Mayfield playing great, far better than we've seen out of an OU quarterback since maybe Landry Jones during a certain stretch of when he was really hot. But Mayfield's done that basically the whole year. In Oklahoma State, I think the defense is much better. Now, the combo quarterbacking with Walsh and Rudolph is fantastic, but that defense has gotten a lot better, and it's gotten really deep. They're still not running the ball worth beans, but definitely the quarterbacks have helped a bunch. But when it comes to defensive depth in Stillwater, secondary coverage in Norman, that's what's really propelled these teams ahead.
Yeah, it is just remarkable to think because, you know, I was talking to some OU players after their practice on Tuesday night, just about the hype around this game, which obviously players, coaches, they try to avoid. They try to approach things the same every week, and yet it was impossible for them to deny that it feels different. I mean, that game a week ago, the Baylor game was a huge game for them. 2 weeks ago, it was TCU for OSU. That was a huge game for them that built up differently. And now here they are again. And both teams are in this situation where people are paying attention. If they win, it just gets bigger. So it was impossible for them to deny how different it feels from a year ago. And who wants to go back to what it was a year ago? Let's continue to play big-time football games in this state. We'll remain the epicenter as long as college football will have us. Be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.